Hi everyone, this is going to be a book review on Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. As a lot of you know, it's a classic that has actually been around since 1848 when the author published it as a 29-year-old. So it's been around for quite some time. I actually chose to read it myself as a 16-year-old, and it made quite an impression on me. I've probably read it one or two times since. So what I'm going to basically do is just give a brief synopsis of this book and my take on it, my interpretation of it. The book takes place in the late 1700s in the Yorkshire moors of England. The family that centers around is called the Earnshaw family, and it centers around the daughter, her name's Catherine Earnshaw, and a character called Heathcliff. Now Heathcliff first comes into the scene when Catherine's about 10 years old. Catherine's father is an upstanding gentleman who's, I'd say, probably mid to upper class English society at that point in time. And he finds a gypsy orphan, and he decides to adopt him, and they call him Heathcliff. Catherine and Heathcliff are the two main characters, and this is how they meet. Now, right away, Catherine and Heathcliff find that despite the fact that they come from such different backgrounds, that they have very, very similar souls and similar personalities. They spend a lot of time together as kids. They spend a lot of time together in the moors and doing not crazy stuff, but stuff that a lot of kids weren't doing at that point in time. And they enjoy each other's company. And as they spend more and more time together, what happens is, that I thought, was that they continue to influence each other, and they continue to become more alike and virtually become soulmates. Now, because of this, they actually share a strong love for each other that they do not acknowledge even to themselves. Whereas Catherine tends to hide it a little bit more than Heathcliff, but they're not open about it. Now, the major problem comes when Catherine is at the age where she's supposed to start looking for a husband. All of a sudden, because of society's ideals, Heathcliff is not the appropriate love for Catherine. That's the reality. Catherine is a upper middle class lady who should marry an upper middle class man, and Heathcliff is a gypsy who works in her father's stable. So she sees him as not being suitable for her. Now what happens is Catherine has an idea in her head as to what is a gentleman, a suitable husband for her, and she thinks she finds him in Edgar Linton, who is her next door neighbor. Now, Edgar Linton meets Catherine and I think generally loves her. He loves how different she is from himself. She loves her daring, fiery ways, and so what happens is Catherine convinces herself that she loves Edgar too. And I think she genuinely does find stuff that she likes about Edgar. She sees him as a very, a good husband material, but what she ends up doing is not following her own heart and denying her love of Heathcliff. Now, what happens is that Heathcliff overhears a conversation of Catherine's and ends up leaving the scene for a while. He goes abroad, and nobody knows what happens for him for quite some time. Meanwhile, despite her inner struggle, Catherine marries Edgar. And she moves to his house, and she's the lady, the noble lady that she thought she wanted to be, that society and her parents want her to be. In the meantime, Heathcliff ends up coming back. He is now rich. He thinks he has gotten to the point where Catherine will see him as an acceptable man. But the problem is Catherine's already married. Heathcliff, of course, is heartbroken. And instead of he does show it, but instead he acts in what turns out to be a catastrophic way. He marries Edgar's sister, Isabella. And of course, just as Catherine and Edgar are very different, Heathcliff and Isabella are very, very different too. Basically, we're talking in two different couples where the souls are as different as ice and water. Now, as time goes on, Heathcliff becomes more and more irrational. And as far as Catherine goes, she continues to try to convince herself that Edgar and her are happy together, but the longing and the love for Heathcliff never goes away. And what happens towards the middle of the book is that mysteriously, Catherine is very, very ill. Despite the fact that Heathcliff is married to Isabel, he rushes to Catherine's side because, of course, they both still love each other very much and can't be with each other now because they chose not to follow their hearts. They chose to follow society instead. And essentially, it's all because Catherine and Heathcliff denied their true love. And Heathcliff even says this as Catherine is dying on her deathbed. Page 197. Why did you betray your own heart, Cathy? You loved me. What right have you to leave me? Why did you kill yourself? And then another section here. I have not broken your heart. You have broken it, and in breaking it, you have broken mine. That right there, that illustrates the tragedy because, again, Cathy chose to follow society's expectations of her instead of her own heart, and she denied herself of the love that was right there, and that was true. As you continue to read the book, Heathcliff's life continues to spiral out of control. He becomes more and more irrational. He makes everybody's life around him miserable. And what my take on this is that the author is trying to warn us. Even now in this, I would even apply it to this time right now. The author is trying to warn us to follow your heart. If you find somebody that's special, and you find somebody that works for you, and that is a soulmate, and that, you know, gels with you, and that you feel alive with, basically, go with that person. Social status shouldn't matter. Race shouldn't matter. What matters is what's inside. And what society might want for us is not always right. Now, just a couple things about this book. A lot of people may not like this book because it's written in an older version of English. I mean, it's not Shakespearean or anything like that. But it's British English, and it's from the 1840s. It's 366 pages long, so it's a little bit on the longer side. But if you ever do get a chance to read it, and you're a romantic like myself, I think you will enjoy it. Thank you for your time.